Hey, hey, my fabulous friends, and welcome to this week's episode of Real Estate Elevated. I am your host, Cheryl Knowlton, CSP, Certified Speaking Professional, and host of this fabulous, amazing show, which gives me the opportunity to not meet, connect with, and just really dive deeply into incredible, beautiful humans all over the planet who are doing incredible work. A couple of years ago, I had the honor and the privilege of meeting today's incredible guest, Kathleen Miller. And I will allow her to introduce herself as how about right now? That would be beautiful. Kathleen, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to finally be having this conversation with you.
Hi, Cheryl. So nice to see you. Look
So
forward to
nice to
seeing you
see
in person.
you in
So
person. Yeah, next time we'll be in
next time,
person. Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
So,
And so
Kathleen
you,
Miller. I'm the
yes.
founder and director of Living Grace Homes for pregnant and parenting moms in Southern Nevada. And will be open 19 years on February 1st and have served just right around 1,000 young women who were pregnant, either for part or all of their pregnancy, and oftentimes walking beside them continually for a period afterwards. One of my first, actually, a few of my first babies will be graduating from high school in May. It's so exciting, right? So, um, so yeah, Cheryl was saying creating safe spaces, and we're just in a time where that is so important, especially for young people that might be disconnected from their families. Early on, I started calling Living Grace Homes a safe haven from life's storms, and um, we just want to provide a place where all the chaos that's going on in a young pregnant woman's life who is homeless or in danger of becoming homeless can kind of calm down and look at, okay, these are the things that have worked for me in the past. Are they still going to work for me? Or what things do I need to add or do differently or let go of in order to move forward and have an opportunity at a successful, calm life?
And that is so incredible and so important. And so, just as a little bit of background for any of our new listeners who are not familiar with my entire life story, which I am finally writing the book with the assistance of my best friend and my daughter. You and I met a couple of years ago, and I just felt this magnetic attraction to you, and I didn't even know necessarily what you did yet. And we'd had an opportunity to go around the circle and introduce ourselves. We were both at a training, a small group training, but there was just something just so beautiful about your spirit, and I thought I just really want to get to know Kathleen. And so when we had the opportunity to do partner work, I wanted to be your partner. And I don't recall if I don't think I had already told you my story, that I was adopted and that my mother did not have the options available to her that you provide to, these beautiful 1,000 young women that you have served and helped for 19 years. She didn't have options. And as a result, she was forced into a situation by her parents where she had to put me up for adoption. And so finding out my story and about what you do, I just was so blown away by the magnificence of the safe haven and the safe spaces that you create for these pregnant young women in Southern Nevada, in the Las Vegas area. So let's go back a little bit. 19 years. What inspired you to create Living Grace Homes to begin with?
Well, my standard answer is God. Um,
Mhm.
I had moved to Las Vegas in 1994. My husband had been transferred out here with an insurance company, and I got involved with work at my church. And when I went and visited different organizations, a lot of people would say, "What we really need here, Kathleen, is a home for pregnant moms." And my answer was always, "You're right, we do. as soon as somebody decides to do that, you let me know. I'll help however I can. It took a couple of years to figure out that God had changed my name to somebody. Um, and I better start on this.
Whoa. Just a second, because I mean, we have a global audience, people listening all over the world, literally.
Uh-huh.
God changed my name to somebody. Someone just got chills from head to toe listening to you say that, thinking, wow, at my church, in my community, in my area, we have a need for X. And I know that we have a need for X, and I keep hearing that we need this thing. And sometime, someday, somebody's going to come along. And when that happens, you let me know and I'll be all in until if God changes your name to somebody, then today's the day. And that person is you.
Yep.
Woo! Okay, carry on.
And there is, I'm sure that you've heard the old phrase that God does not call the equipped; He equips the called.
Mhm.
So when I realized that this was what I was supposed to be doing, I was had absolutely no experience forming a nonprofit. I had no experience finding and opening a home. I had no experience in developing a program that would help move young moms from dependency to empowerment and help them become self-supporting and self-sufficient. And so I had to do about 5 years worth of research before we opened the first home. Um, so for the last 19 years, we have served a a youth population age 14 to 24. In fact, right, I just came from one of the houses. We have a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old that are just going through the intake process right now, and um, their um, their trajectory is a little different from women over that age range. So by the end of the first quarter, we'll have 14 emergency beds at our new property. And if everything goes smoothly, which rarely happens, by the end of the year, we'll have an additional 24 beds for women 22 and up that will allow us to serve the women that we've had to turn away because we didn't have the ability to provide space for them that would give them space apart from the young moms. So um, I I started Living Grace, or my small board of directors and I started Living Grace on a wing and a prayer. Um, One of my board members did a 1031 exchange, sold a rental property, and purchased the home that we opened in February of 2007. So,
Wow, beautiful. And so that was your first location. How many locations do you have now?
we have two that are occupied and one that is being rehabbed for, like I said, having 14 emergency beds available by the end of March, by the end of Q1. Um, and so last year in May, we closed on a 2.25 acre property that had two buildings under roof, that a total of about 12,000 square feet, but in a bad state of repair. They had not been well maintained. Um, One building was built in 1978, and I believe it still has the original roof on it, so that will have to be
Mhm.
replaced. And the other building was built in 81. Um, and so the one that was built in 81 is the one that's currently being rehabbed for those emergency beds. And emergency beds are generally defined as 30 days or less, but you can do extensions. But what they're for is for those phone calls that come after hours, weekends, holidays, and we can send a team out to pick somebody up, get them off the street, get them sheltered, and then the next business day determine if where they need to be. If they need to be in our program, if they're a good fit for our program, if they need to go to a domestic violence shelter or a substance abuse recovery program, or if we just need to put them on a plane and send them back to Des Moines or Jackson or wherever they came from, because Las Vegas attracts people that want to start over, and sometimes that all unfolds magically, and other times it can be quite traumatic. So
Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned your intake process and when young women come in to an emergency bed situation, which leads to a different question, so don't let me get ahead of myself. um, how do you go about doing that intake process to determine whether or not a young woman is the right fit for your program? What does that entail?
So it's a two-step program, and then there is a 30-day probationary period. So the first step is generally a phone interview that goes over a number of areas. The two populations that we simply can't serve because we are not qualified is if there's extreme mental health um, diagnoses, if they are if they are paranoid schizophrenic, or if they have a serious bipolar disorder. We are not equipped. We do not have a psychiatrist on staff, and I always say that my staff members are not trained in passive restraint, um, and so we cannot take those young women. And unfortunately, there's really not a program that we can refer them to either. So it's not just a Southern Nevada issue, it is a nationwide issue. We do not have sufficient numbers of mental health beds for those people. And the other one is if they have a, um, a legal history of violence, assault, or battery, um,
Mm.
or they are the perpetrators in domestic violence, we simply don't have the capacity to house them. Other than that, the phone interview asks questions in terms of, when is their due date, how old are they, have they finished high school, do they have work experience, how long have they been homeless or unhoused, um, where is their family, where is their connections, do they have a support system, um, and then there's a one-on-one interview face to face where they fill out the intake application and are accepted into the program. And then there's a 30-day probationary period that has two purposes. One is to help get them started on case management. So our five pillars are legal, medical, benefits, education, and employment. And so um, part of the medical part is to make sure that they have a mental health assessment, and they are almost always going to need to be in therapy because you just don't end up in a maternity housing program if you haven't experienced some trauma. Um, and if we can help them resolve their trauma, then they're less likely to pass that trauma on to their children. Um,
Mm.
so that first 30 days is making sure that we get them set up with medical care, a mental health assessment, helping them get documents. Oftentimes they show up with just, the clothes on their back and a few personal care items, and they don't have a birth certificate, a social security card, or a Nevada ID. So we have to start from scratch and help them acquire those documents so that we can then help get them in school or job or whatever their case plan looks like for the individual.
Beautiful, wonderful. And so, going back to the other question that I wanted to ask you, how do young women find out about your program to begin with? They're in this terrible situation. They are either unhoused or homeless, or there's a threat of them about to become homeless. How do you spread the word throughout Southern Las Vegas about the incredible mission that you've embarked on because God changed your name to somebody?
So when we first opened 19 years ago, um, most of our referrals came from, well, first of all, we had our foster care license for the first 3 years. So we would get referrals from the Department of Family Services or the Department of Juvenile Justice. Um, we would get referrals from the welfare department, from school nurses or social workers. Um, but today, young people have a computer in the palm of their hand. And so they are able to Google or DuckDuckGo and find resources, including if they put in pregnant and homeless, or pregnant and going to be homeless, or anything that has something to do with youth and being pregnant and either homeless or in danger of being homeless, and will come up toward the top of the list. So they will reach out. They generally go to our website and put in a client in need of services request that is followed up by a response from one of our team that does that phone interview, and then schedules an in-person interview. If it's an emergency, if there's, so my most recent experience with an emergency was a young lady that had been in the program 3 years ago and had had her second child at Living Grace Homes. And she was pregnant with a boy. She was at her grandma's house, and she was due in less than 30 days. She and grandma were not getting along well, and grandma would not watch the other two children. And so she was not getting to prenatal appointments. So she'd had very little prenatal care, and she had some health issues that were concerning in terms of what she needed to have taken care of before she would go into labor. So I asked another staff member to follow up. And while that staff member was on the phone with her doing the phone interview intake, that staff member texted me and said, her grandma is hitting her while I'm on the phone with her. And I just texted back and said, get me the address, tell her I will be there, put it into my maps. It said it'd take me 35 minutes. I said, tell her I will be there in 40 minutes. This is at 8 o'clock at night. And so I went immediately, picked her and the two little girls up. It is, like I said, it's after 8 o'clock at night, and I picked them up. They're on the porch. They've already been put out. And each little girl, age 3 and 4, had an apple, and she had two jugs of juice that's not really juice, the watered down stuff that's like 5% juice, and the rest is colored water.
The sugar water. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was as much food as grandma gave them when they were put out.
Excuse me. It makes me so.
So that is what an emergency situation can look like. One of my teammates, a couple weeks after that, we had an inquiry from a 17-year-old that was pregnant and was spending the night in her mom's car because she was not getting along with her two brothers that also lived in the small apartment with mom. And so instead of providing a bed for her, mom allowed her to go out and sleep in the car in December. Now, December in Las Vegas is not the same as December in Salt Lake City.
No, it is not.
But it's not warm and toasty either. So
no, yeah, having family in Las Vegas, I it's amazing, but yeah, it's not all that. Not to live outside for sure.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. So you mentioned that you help these young women go from dependency to empowerment. Tell us a little bit more about all the things that you do. Once a young woman is in your program, what do you do to help her go from dependency to empowerment? Obviously, starting with getting her documents, legal documents that would allow her to drive and or work, et cetera. But there's so much that you do. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So there's on-site supervisors that we call house moms that help give them guidance and direction. And sometimes that guidance and direction is literally teaching them how to keep a clean, sanitary house. But we also provide a number of classes and workshops that help them take a different look, have a different perspective. So I just earlier today met with a lactation specialist that is going to be coming in and doing monthly classes on breastfeeding and the benefits, both nutritionally and emotionally, of breastfeeding. We have a nutritionist from the Cooperative Extension Service at the university that comes in and does nutrition classes. We have we have some people helping with teaching them some just backyard gardening skills. And you actually have a little backyard garden in Las Vegas if you know what to plant and when to plant it so that it doesn't burn up. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so we have parenting classes. Just had our 2026 class started up on Tuesday evening, and that is done by an early childhood specialist that works at St. Rose Hospital, and she uses a program called Love and Logic that
I
just
love Love and Logic. Love it.
yeah, it is a Christian-based program that helps moms understand their children and understand their children's at each stage of development and what tools are effective in helping teach them. Um, Before opening Living Grace, I taught parenting classes for 8 years. And one of the first things that I would tell a new class or group was that the word discipline does not mean to spank. It means to teach. Um, and that is our primary role as parents is to teach our children, teaching them right from wrong and how to do the right thing for the right reason. Um, and the secondary is wings, giving them the confidence, the knowledge, and the ability to fly out of the nest and soar. Um, and so most of our young moms have had neither the the foundational roots nor the confidence building or the tools necessary to soar. And so that is part of what we do with the classes that we do. Um, the parenting, the nutrition, financial literacy, um, the lactation specialist can really be wrapped into the nutritional, but it also gives them an understanding of um, bonding and attachment, so that they recognize that it's not just food for their baby. It is also that time spent holding and cuddling and making sure that your baby feels safe. Going back to how we started the conversation, most of
Yeah.
moms have not felt safe. In fact, it's not unusual for me to speak with a new young mom, and if she's struggling, ask her when the last time she felt safe is, and just have them burst into tears, because oftentimes they can't even recall the last time they really felt safe. So, um, and then helping them get back in school, determining if that is getting into a classroom. So as I mentioned, I have a 14 and a 16-year-old that are being processed in right now. And one of them is going to do in school, and we've got a great alternative high school that is a butts in the seat program, that they don't get homework. Um, they do the work in class. They ask questions. They do the work, and they get the information in the classroom. They're not told to go home and read a book or pull up a video or whatever else, because the school there doesn't know what resources they have at home. And so having them do the work in the class, and get the information in the class and have the ability to ask questions. They're small classes. There's under 20 students in a class. So one of the young ladies wants that in-person training. The other one has been doing online schooling, and so she'll just continue her online schooling from the office at Living Grace. So most of your viewers, I'm sure, are aware that there's a significant difference in lifetime earnings for the difference between having a high school diploma and not having one. Um,
Yes.
it is it is that simple, that basic, that I've been looking at the research for close to 40 years, and for 40 years, the three things that can almost always guarantee that you will not spend long-term in poverty are finish high school, get a job, get married before you have children. Those three things, 90 plus percent of the people that follow that path will spend some time struggling, but they will not spend the majority of their lifetime um, in poverty in the United States. So helping them make sure that they get that education. Some of them already, 30% have graduated. And so that is more of a, okay, so where do you see yourself? What do you want to be when you grow up? What career path interests you? Do you want a career or do you just want to go work at the mall? And to raise a child on your own, um, it's it's helpful to choose a career path. And so we work with local businesses, local trade schools to help them acquire the skills that they need. Not everybody's college material. And we sure have seen that the last few years, that there's an overabundance of college degrees in terms of the job openings that are available.
Mhm.
There's way more need for the trades, and that's whether it's the building trades or plumbing or air conditioning or welding or carpentry, but also nursing. I don't think there's a state in this country that doesn't have a nursing shortage. And so for those young ladies that are interested in going into the medical field, um, most states, the hospital systems, if you get your CNA and you get a job in a hospital, they will pay for your education to get your RN or any other medical specialty that you might want to go to. And maybe you want to go become a sonographer, or maybe you want to be um, do blood work. There's there's so many things in the medical profession that don't require a 4-year degree, that once you get into a hospital, they will pay for you to be trained in those fields because they need them, and there's a shortage of them. So
Yes. Beautiful. That's so incredible. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago, I want to say it was 2 years ago, almost to the day, that I had the opportunity to come to Las Vegas and to speak to the young ladies that were in your program at that point in time. I was so blown away by their dreams and their vision and their plan for themselves. I mean, several of them wanted to become doctors. And I thought, talk about providing safe space. I mean, it is one having feeling safe is one of our fundamental human needs. And having that certainty of having food on the table and a roof over our head, and that we're not going to be physically assaulted by grandma or anybody else. Um, it's so essential. We can't have those lofty dreams and goals and visions and aspirations for ourselves or for our children if we don't feel safe. And the fact that you created so much safety for them so that they could have those dreams of going into the medical field and becoming doctors. I didn't want to be a doctor when I was their age. That was not on the table for me. Too much schooling, very squeamish about blood, like not my path in life. Um, but what a gift, what a legacy that I mean, over 1,000 young women. That is just breathtaking because that's over 1,000 children, not including if any of them had twins. That's even more.
right.
That's so spectacular,
We
Kathleen.
haven't had very many sets of twins, but one of the sets of twins that we did have, their mom, they just turned 9 in December, and their mom works for us. So
Oh, that's
that
wonderful. I love that. So as you've done this for all of these young women, all of these children, 19 years, what's been one of your biggest surprises about this journey for you personally?
I think probably the number one is I was not young when I started Living Grace Homes, um, but what an education I have gotten in the last 19 years. There are just things about family dynamics that I didn't understand. There's things about the impact of trauma that that if it's not resolved, it just is carried on from generation to generation. Um, and I think one of the hardest lessons is um, the starfish lesson, and that is you can't save them all. You know,
Mm.
you can't save them all. Um, and so we do one starfish at a time, and um, and pour in as much love and information and confidence as we can, and then hope that they have the um, have the vision and courage to go out on their own and soar. So
Beautiful. I love that so much. So where can our listeners learn more about Living Grace Homes and potentially get involved or donate or support your incredibly beautiful mission and cause?
thank you. It's www.livinggracehomes.org. It is plural, so livinggracehomes.org. Um, and there should be a donate button on the first page. There's also should be a link for those that are anywhere locally or that would want to even do a video class, an online video class. Then you can put that in the interested in volunteering or learning more.
Nice.
And there's a place to just, if you want to be on our email list. Um, I know we all end up with all kinds of stuff in our email list, and I'm one of those that has to go through at least once a month and unsubscribe to thousands of things. But if you want
Right.
to be kept in the loop, then you can say, yeah, I'd like to get regular information. I don't think our newsletter goes out quite once a month yet, but we're working on it. I know the January newsletter did go out recently, and we, in loving memory of one of our first volunteers that volunteered for at least the first 7 years, maybe even a little bit longer, but she passed away in November, shortly after her 91st birthday.
Wow.
So she lived a wonderful long life and a life of service and faith. And we were very fortunate to have had her for the years that we did. So
Oh, that's so beautiful. Any final words of advice for our listeners about for those who felt the tingle from head to toe, if God changes your name to someday, any final words of advice for our listeners?
um, philanthropically, Living Grace Homes, you get a lot of bang for your bucks. And this 2.25 acre campus that we just purchased and are working on, by the time everything is said and done, I need to raise about $4 million over the course of this next year to make sure that our two homes are fully functioning while we are getting the work done on the new property. So I have a big ask. I need your assistance in raising that $4 million to make sure that this campus is makes it through the first phase of development. There's more plans. There's a bigger use for that 2.25 acres than what is currently being done. And so just getting those two buildings serviceable will mean that we will be able to triple the number of women that we serve in a year compared to what we are currently serving. So
Wow.
yeah, so we currently serve between 45 and 55 um, individual home households a year, and this will allow us to serve about 150. So,
Wow. And what a mind-blowing situation that the greater Las Vegas area has that much of a need. Uh, uh,
yes.
mhm.
Well, and sadly, around the country after COVID, every place had this big spike in the cost of housing and the lack of access to low income housing. And so unhoused or homeless pregnant women went up by over 400% across the country.
What?
Since 2021, 400% increase in homeless pregnant women.
Wow, that is devastating. And
Yeah,
we'll make sure that it's in the show notes. But friends, www.livinggracehomes, plural.org, and right on the homepage. And for anyone listening thinking, oh, I don't have a lot to donate, it's the compound effect. $5, used so well and with such stewardship and integrity. Kathleen and her board, you can know that all of your money is going to help these young women, which is an issue, sadly, in today's day and age. And so, for those who don't know Kathleen as well as I know her, you can know that your dollars are being used very judiciously, and in service of these young women. What an incredible opportunity for all of us to be generous and open our wallets, even if it's not a lot. A little compounded adds up to a lot.
yes. And I don't know the demographics of your listening audience, but if any of them are in my age range, they may want to look at their required distributions from their 401ks or their IRAs. Because if you send a donation directly from your 401k or your IRA to Living Grace Homes, rather than taking a distribution and then sending a check, it reduces your taxable income by the amount that you donate. So if you do it through your financial institution and it's sent from them to Living Grace Homes, if you send, to keep it simple, $1,000, it reduces your taxable income by $1,000. If you take that distribution and you write me a check and you're in the 30% tax bracket, you get to write off $300.
Mm. Wow, well, there's a tax strategy.
Right? So
Yeah,
charitable
yeah.
contributions that come through your IRA or your 401k, if you are, it's a required distribution, I believe, when you're 72. But anytime after 65, you can start that process. You don't have to wait until it's a required distribution. Um, but having it sent directly from your wherever your IRA or 401k is growing. So
Wow, beautiful. I love that. That's such a great strategy, Kathleen. Thank you for sharing with us a method for us to be able to do that. And hooray for taxable savings, right? Oh my goodness. Fabulous friends. Thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for being here. Kathleen, thank you so much for sharing your heart, your vision, your mission, for all the good that you're doing in the world. Thank you so much for being here. We hope that you've been edified, as a result of listening to Kathleen, that you've been inspired. I know that I have been as well. You know someone who needs to hear this episode. Please feel free to freely share. Make sure you subscribe so that you get every single episode as they drop every single week. And until we get to be together again, please continue to be the magic you wish to see in the world.